Welcome to our show on what can only be described as a bizarre election. Sorry, actually, that's a bit of an understatement. This is one of the most bizarre, weirdest, craziest elections I have ever witnessed. And at my age, I've witnessed a lot. Where a man who many say is an embarrassment to America, a man who nobody gave a hint of a chance of ever even winning the Republican Party nomination, a man who's made so many wild, outlandish statements that any other candidate in US election history would have been dumped and trashed by the electorate. But Donald Trump is still there and he's standing with a chance. And that alone absolutely astounds everyone across the world. I know people in America also, and I love America, but this election has shocked even me. The problem is that many say that his opponent, Hillary Clinton, is not exactly a charismatic, lovable leader. She epitomizes the status quo. She represents the establishment, Washington, D.C. She has among the highest ever negative ratings by voters. Basically, many are calling this election not a popularity contest, but it's an unpopularity contest. Who has the lower negatives? In a nutshell, I have said this for a long time now, any other Republican candidate other than Trump would have beaten Hillary Clinton, and any other Democrat candidate other than Hillary Clinton would have thrashed Donald Trump. It's just an unpopularity contest. Well, this is a strange election. Ironically, though, it is also an election that has revealed a lot of worrying divisions in American society that are coming to the surface. And we should be trying to analyze some of these divisions in what looks like a divided nation. What's happening to America? And what does it portray? And how does it mean for each of the candidates? Who's winning in which section and why? So let's have a look at first, who's winning at the moment? And I go by the one and only Nate Silver, 538.com. He's got amazing analysis, and his latest, as of right now, is Clinton with 45%, that's about 44.9, and Trump with 42%. That's a 3% lead, which is slightly wider than it was 4 days ago before the FBI cleared Clinton. We'll come to that. That was a bizarre phenomenon. The FBI coming out in the middle of a campaign or towards the end of a campaign and saying, we're reinvestigating Hillary Clinton without any real evidence. And then 7 days later, they say, we've reinvestigated, everything's fine. That really did affect this election, and we'll be looking at those figures and how they affected it. But that's the current position. And before I come to our panel, or maybe I should come to you first, actually. Dora, they're behaving like you, the FBI, dithering back and forth,
that's right,
hedging their bets.
That's happened to work with people like you.
Isn't it a bit odd that 1 week to go, 10 days to go, and they say we are reopening the whole investigation?
No, there's an act, I think the Hatch Act, that says you should not do this. There is FBI procedure, but I think everything turned topsy-turvy in this election, and there is no reason why this one shouldn't either. It's a surprise. It shouldn't have happened. It's happened so close, but I think that's politics in America today.
Amy, just to come in and make that statement without any facts, I'm going to reinvestigate, it really did affect Hillary Clinton. So the FBI had an active role in this election. It's never happened before.
Yes, it's quite a disturbing development. typically the standard line of investigating agencies like the FBI would be, we don't comment on ongoing investigations.
Yeah.
And so to come out and make this comment that, we found some additional mails, we're taking a look at them, is really, really quite extraordinary, and obviously was a very serious blow to Hillary's campaign.
Right,
because
reopening the whole thing, and it's on Weiner's computer, it all sounded like really ominous. So it did really affect her negatively.
Well, also, if you look at her ratings, she was, her lead had, I think, grown to around, I don't have the numbers to hand, but I think her lead over Donald Trump had increased to about possibly double-digit points. I mean,
one point, yeah.
The gap had really widened significantly, and after the FBI came out and said, "Oh, we're looking again," suddenly the gap again began to narrow, and Donald Trump was able to really say, "Look, this is a candidate who's going to be mired in perpetual controversy," which of course brings back a lot of memories of the Clinton White House round one. So that's the last thing people want.
But Walter Anderson, Donald Trump first says, look, they've found they're reopening, it's not rigged. Then they closely said, look, it's rigged. Like, if anything goes against this man, it's rigged, it's cheating. And if anything goes in favor, that's the truth. What kind of a man is this? I mean, we have a fair share in our country, but man, this is serious stuff.
He has a record of wild statements. We may get into some of them in this panel here.
Yes.
Some of them very embarrassing on gender issues and other issues. So, in fact, the rigging is one of the more mild of his reactions to the event. But something that's going to be interesting that we haven't really, there's been snippets that have come out, and I just got from Washington now, and it's kind of circulating around Washington. There's an internal debate in the FBI itself. And I'm told near revolution among some of the prosecutors in the FBI who didn't like the initial decision not to have recommend an indictment of Hillary Clinton. And then when they discovered this, apparently the fear was, and Comey's fear as well, was that somehow this would leak and he would be held responsible for this leak as being one-sided. So in some ways, he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't.
Right, it was a tough one. It was a tough one.
It was a tough decision.
The only trouble is that he was a Republican, registered Republican. He donated to the Republican Party. He's been okay. I mean, it's strange how Obama appointed a Republican as head of the FBI. Fine, okay. And he's been unbiased up to now. But then when you do something like this and they find that you were a registered Republican, it sort of raises
So
a
the
lot of
Attorney
questions.
General put herself out of reckoning. If the Attorney General hadn't met Clinton at the airport and half an hour conversation with him, none of this would have happened.
Right. I just wanted to go through, we know that it's this election, we saw it's pretty close, it's 3% margin, but it's been a roller coaster. Let's have a look at what it's been like over the last 3-4 months. This is now Nate Silver again, where he shows the probability of each candidate winning. This is not their percentage of margin. So this is, if I don't fall off this. So in June, they were pretty wide apart. In July, Trump gets the nomination. He wins the nomination for the Republican candidate, and he gets a nice little bump. Then on July 28th, that was July 21st, he only had a 1-week bump because 28th came the Democrat convention. Hillary was nominated, and look at the bump she got. She got a huge, so many people then said, okay, then this was reverting to norm. And we'll discuss what is the norm because, and I'll show a graphic on this, no Democrat candidate has won 3 times, no Democrat Party candidate has won 3 times in a row for the last 60 years. So there is an anti-incumbency underlying factor here. So that started coming back. Then the first debate came where Hillary Clinton certainly won and she started going up. Then came the Trump's locker room comments. Now, I won't go into the locker room is the best thing I can say, but what shocks me is that they were the most disgraceful comments I've heard from any politician anywhere. Maybe you've heard more. And it only depressed him for 3 weeks. After that, of course, the FBI came in and helped him and reopened the Clinton case, he announced, Comey. And Trump started going up. And just 2 days ago, November the 6th, the FBI clears Clinton, and it's kind of turning. So now it's still 67% chance to Clinton and 33% chance to Trump. We've got Namrata up in New York. In fact, I wish I was in New York. Namrata, they're saying that the impact of Comey, the FBI is saying, okay, it's all clear, she's fine, we are sorry we did what we did 1 week ago, has come a bit late. Is that true, or is there some momentum that oh God, we were wrong and let's go back to Hillary Clinton?
Dr. Roy, I think if there's one loser right now, which everyone can easily predict, is going to be FBI Director James Comey, clearly.
Right.
But on your question of whether it's come too late, that's been a reasonable fear. But if you look at financial markets, the Dow Jones and S&P 500 shot up immediately. They are up 1.5%, ending a 9-day losing streak. And the chances and the fear of a Trump victory were being built in. And the idea there is that Hillary Clinton represents status quo. So she's predictable, versus Trump represents the very opposite of that, and there's no gauge for anything regarding his trade policies, his foreign policy, or what he'll do in crucial reforms, whether it be taxes, healthcare, or immigration.
So we'll be coming back to you because there are lots of other little turning points which we want to discuss with you. You followed it very closely. Just one thing before you go. You attended both the conventions and you followed this whole election like minute by minute. Both of them got a huge boost by the convention, but Hillary much more. Why was that? Was there a,
I think the idea over there was that Bernie Sanders...
Was there a Michelle Obama factor, a Barack Obama factor that helped her? Anything, any of those factors that helped her get her boost?
Yes, she's had the most powerful surrogates that any candidate could dream of. So yes, President Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, who are powerful advocates to not just the African American community, but the young vote, and the vote which has been hopeful of a change in America, which neither of the candidates right now brings to the table. So I think she definitely got that. In fact, even tonight we have the entire star-studded cast of American politics coming in support for her. And I think significantly, Dr. Roy, it was the change of Bernie Sanders supporters coming in, and we know that 8 out of 10 Bernie Sanders supporters are now standing behind Hillary Clinton. That was the split in the Democratic Party, and it all came together unified on the day of the Democratic Convention, very unlike the GOP one.
Okay, thanks very much. We'll be coming back to you. Just wanted to look at one of the factors, Raja Mohan, which has not really been discussed very much in the American press. And if we look at the graphic, at how Trump has improved over the last 3 months, he's gone from 40.9 to 45.4. That's a gain of, Dorab, about 3.5%. At the same time, the third candidate, Johnson, Gary, has gone down by about 2.5. So if we look at where did he's gone up, Trump has gone up by 4.5. Most of that has come from Gary Johnson going down. So as we get closer to the vote, to the actual voting, people are saying, look, okay, he had 8%. I mean, he's not going to get a chance. So let's move back to somebody. And a lot of Republicans had gone to Gary Johnson, and now they're coming back as it gets closer. And he's still 3.7. It may go down to 2, so that 1.7 may still come up. And if you look at Hillary, she's only gone down 1% in the last 3 months. So the third factor, third party candidate, Aleppo Johnson, should we call him? Oh no, okay. He's really fading out, and it's all going to Trump. So Trump is gaining from him rather than from Hillary.
No, I think there was hope that initially the third party candidates might get a lot more support, but they haven't, because it's become a very direct contest between the two. But what is interesting, I don't know if your numbers capture the undecideds.
No, they're 10 or 11% undecided.
So I think that is where the uncertainty of the election lies. While she holds the lead, the undecided voters, and the question of...
Actually, there are still 9% undecided voters, and there are 2 days to go. Now, these are undecided, but maybe they're just not telling us. Pollsters, now people are wary of pollsters. Why should I tell you? You know, they prefer to do an online poll where it's a computer at the other end rather than a voice. A lot of people are saying that Trump has hidden support. People are going to vote for Trump. Dhruv, is that true? They're not admitting it.
Well, there's certainly a possibility of that happening, and I think we saw that with the Brexit vote, where very few polls indicated that the Leave crowd in the Brexit was pulling in over 50%. By and large, even when they had a lead, it was well below 50%. So there is a possibility that we'll see sort of silent Trump voters coming out on election day.
I think Brexit is a turnout issue more than
correct.
anything
There's a
else.
turnout issue. But equally, actually, that helps Hillary, and I think that this is an important point to make, which is she
One
has
important
invested.
issue is the legacy of Obama, and we've got Tim Romer, the former ambassador to India, who's a very successful ambassador here and is still working very hard. Mr. Romer, you shouldn't work this hard. Now you can relax. You've done your work in India. After you've done India, that's enough for a lifetime, isn't it? You've got the White House behind you as well, I see.
A beautiful day here, Prannoy, in Washington, D.C.
Lovely. Now I'm going to ask you a question about the Obama legacy, because there's this anti-incumbency feeling that people are saying that Democrats have never won 3 times in a row for 60 years, and there's unhappiness with Washington, the establishment. But outside America, people think Obama's great. And if you look at his figures, let's have a look at his statistics. It's only in America they don't like him, it seems. Now, in fact, let's compare America with Europe. They both went into the terrible trough in 2008, and they both had different policies of coming out. How did they get out? Obama chose the policy of quantitative easing. Europe did not. And Europe grew at only 1%. Look at this. Europe grew at only 1% over the last 5 years. America, twice as fast as Europe. That's pretty good. You don't have to compare America with India and China. Everybody's at a much lower base. Look at the growth rate in the Obama administration years. From a negative to start with, he got his highest growth rate actually last week. It's almost at 3%, I think 2.7 or something like that. So Obama has been amazingly successful objectively. And finally, if you look at the unemployment figures and how Obama has handled it, just look at unemployment, the next graphic. In fact, he's tackled it successfully. He started with 9%, he's down to under 6%. I think it's almost 5%, it's about 5%. So, Tim Romer, can you explain to us why the rest of the world thinks so highly of Obama, but Americans don't, and he kind of hands over an anti-incumbency mood?
Well, you put your finger on it, Prannoy. We are moving from a hope and change election in 2008 to a rage and revolt election in 2016. Despite that hostility and that divided electorate in America, Barack Obama's numbers keep coming up and up and up. That's good for a number of reasons, and it has an impact around the world. First of all, it helps Hillary Clinton in her effort to win a third term from a more and more popular President, Obama, who's up at 52, 53, 54% approval ratings. Secondly, it also gives a salute and an embrace to many of the things that Barack Obama has tried to do, many of them successfully over the course of his 8 years in office, from health care to significant foreign policy issues, deepening, strengthening the relationship with India, the pivot to Asia, where India has been an linchpin, health care,
can I just interrupt you there?
People.
Can I just interrupt you on the health care, because Trump has made that a huge campaign issue, Obamacare, and that the premiums are going to go up by 110%, 120%. But again, to the rest of the world, having good health care, which America had terrible health care over the last 25 years, is a great thing. But it seems to be how big an issue is it in this election, Obamacare?
Well, Mr. Trump tries to make it a big election issue by saying that he wants to dismantle it and get rid of it. Mrs. Clinton has said there are some small fixes to it. There are some things that we can do to bring premiums down, to expand access, to try to make sure we continue to reach out to people beyond the 20 million that have signed up and get to 25 or 30 million people. But the real issues here, Prannoy, as you well know, have been the personalities of Mrs. Clinton and Mr. Trump. They have been the self-inflicted wounds by Mr. Trump when he's talked about the different issues that he was brought up about banning Muslims from coming into the United States, building walls around the United States. And Mrs. Clinton has made a mistake or two with her email that she said she's learned from. So those kinds of things have dominated this election rather than the substantive issues.
Right. So before you leave us, I know that you're in a hurry to get somewhere. A, who's going to win? Answer that.
It's Mrs. Clinton's election to lose, Prannoy. She's up, according to today's polling, by 3 to 4 percentage points. So she's in the driver's seat, but anything could happen in this very unusual and unorthodox election. Secondly, I think the Electoral College favors her with the swing states coming her way, Pennsylvania, Michigan, maybe North Carolina, Nevada. Those states seem to be going in a trajectory toward her. Thirdly, you have a very positive and popular President Obama that is out campaigning with her all day today and has been on the campaign trail for a couple weeks. Mrs. Obama has been out there. She's a rock star.
Absolutely hugely charismatic.
And so I think a lot of those things go in her favor. But this is a change election, and Mr. Trump is the change agent. So you never know what could happen tomorrow.
So
but it
my
looks like it's probably
final
hers
question
to lose.
is, if Mr. Trump wins, are you emigrating to Canada?
I'm American through and through, Prannoy, and when
Well,
the
you can
going
come
gets
to
tough,
India.
that's when
Come
you
to
have
India.
to make sure that you're here. I love India. I was just there a couple of weeks ago and loved my time there and continue to work hard on broadening and deepening and improving this relationship between these two great democracies.
I think if Trump wins, you should get Indian citizenship. Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks very much. That was very interesting.
Thank you, Prannoy. Great to be with you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Drew, I actually interrupted you because I was told that he's in a rush to carry on with what you were saying.
No, just as the silent Trump voters may surprise us on Wednesday morning here, Tuesday evening in the United States, there's another factor I think that people might be overlooking, which is the fact that Hillary Clinton's campaign has invested a lot on the ground in terms of getting the vote out, and that that could be one of the key determinants.
Right.
So we, while the polls might be showing a very much tighter race, we could very well see, starting in New Hampshire, North Carolina, Florida, much larger votes coming out in her favor on election day.
Okay, now I just want to go into how this weird election has exposed America as quite a divided nation, and we can start with women and men and how Trump, who they support. And if you just have a look, Casey, at the data that, again, this is a poll by IBDIP, which was one of the most accurate last time. Women voters are overwhelmingly voting for Clinton, 51% compared to Trump, 38%. And many people say, how can even 38% of women vote for Trump? Look at men voters, 51 for Trump and 36 for Clinton. So if, and that includes all races, if it was white American men, Trump would win almost it would win like 400 electoral college votes.
If you divide it further, it's even more extreme. If you take educated white women, then the numbers go up extremely.
Right,
if you take educated men, then they would be sort of evenly divided.
Yeah, we've got
but basically his core support, and that is not the only support, is amongst the not college-educated white man. And he is appealing to their worst instincts, to their prejudices and their fears, and many of them, as you've explained, unfounded. But fears don't have to be actual. Fears can be just, because he's conducting what is called a fact-free campaign. Because you can say what you want.
But it doesn't affect him.
It doesn't affect him.
It's just like Teflon Trump.
Now the comparison is even Reagan used to do that, because in one of his speeches, he said there is no word for liberty in Russian. Now that was obviously wrong. But Reagan was an amiable, nice man. He will only do a thing like that. But with Trump, it's a free-for-all. It's fact-free, it's truth-free, it just sounds correct. And I think
and he's
that
not
is
even a
what's-
good speaker.
No, he is.
But that's the base,
apprentice.
and he's appealing to that, and this is rabble rousing.
And people
it's
say,
not
look, he
even-
sounds like an ordinary guy, like
and
one
it's
of
not
us.
even the Republican Party platform, because on trade is anti-Republican Party. So it's a new construct based entirely on the fears. And let me just mention one last thing, that the population of whites today in America is 61%.
Right.
It's estimated by 2050 there'll be 46.6, whereas the Hispanics will go up to a quarter of the population. So there is this fear combined with terrorism, combined with acts which took place during the campaign. So he turned this into an anti-Islamic, anti-Muslim, anti-minorities. So it's a very anti-campaign.
Right.
Appealing to
I
the
just
base
wanted to
instinct.
go into the men and women again, seeing that, and there's another little aspect that Trump should be worried about. And there's again a divide in American politics. Look at the turnout of women versus men. Women have a turnout that is 4% higher than men, which is unusual in most countries. So not only are women supporting Hillary, but they also have a higher turnout. That's something that should...
And there are more women voters.
And there are more than
women voters.
52% of voters are women. So 52% of voters are women, 51% of them are supporting Hillary, and 64% of them normally turn out. Of course, we don't know this year, although the pre-voting day, early voting has been huge this time. Again, it's a different phenomenon.
Almost 25 million votes already in.
More, I think
They
it's up
said
to
even
now
30.
40 million. Huge.
40, so in total of 60.
No.
Total was 150 last time.
60 was
153
last
last
time,
time.
so
153 million voted last time.
I see.
So it's 40, which is still huge. I mean, 40
A
million.
quarter of the vote is in.
Yeah, it's huge.
And there's been very strong early voting by Hispanics, which I think has been commented on in several of the key swing states. Hispanic voters who are very anti-Trump because some of the
In Florida.
very
happened in
shocking
Florida.
comments
Why would the
made.
Hispanics come out and vote?
No, I mean, because Trump made this incredibly offensive comment where a judge,
Yes.
a U.S.-born judge, the son of Mexican immigrants to America, is hearing a case related to some of the, dodgy dealings that Trump had done with his Trump University. And he publicly said that this judge cannot be objective because he's of Mexican origin.
That's
and
his parents were, and
his
he was
parents
born
were
in
Mexican
America.
immigrants. He
I
was
mean,
the
like,
son of...
unbelievable.
And also the talk about the wall, right? So he's linking it up. I'm getting tough on
Also the visit
Mexican...
to Mexico, because he went there and then he insulted the president of Mexico.
No, and
by
also
coming
right
back
at
and
the start
denying
he
him-
said all these Hispanics are rapists, murderers,
Yeah.
and thieves.
Drug
I mean,
dealers.
like anybody else
But
would have
today
been
he came
out.
in and he said when the voting went up in Florida, he says, look, that's rigging. That shows there's rigging.
But so the Hispanic turnout has been very high, and Hispanics haven't necessarily been strong voters in the past. So if they really all turn out, that could also affect the outcome in ways that the pollsters aren't completely accounting for.
There's a counter to that. The African American vote is down,
Yeah,
and the
confirmed
young
that.
people's vote is down. And at least the latest analysis by Nate Silver that I saw indicates that they balance each other.
Yeah.
So no one really has gained as a result of that. Some are up and some are down.
So we're talking about Hispanics. Let's just have a look at the, what Nate Silver or other polls are saying about Hispanic vote and who they're supporting. Not surprisingly, have a look at this. 72% of Hispanic voters for Clinton. 18. I want to know who those 18% are. I think they're just. not-
Actually, a
The
lot of
Cubans,
Cubans.
possibly.
Lot of
The Cubans. The Cubans are always Republicans.
Yeah, right,
A lot of Cubans.
Yeah. And Hispanics are 11% of the overall vote. That's the eligible Hispanic voters. About double that, again, are not yet eligible. They're illegal immigrants or whatever.
Not
And-
citizens.
Not citizens, yeah. And but what will worry Hillary, despite getting 72% of support from Hispanics, the turnout of Hispanic voters is very low. In fact, it's one of the highest last time, which was 48. It's been 32, 35. They're just kind of a little bit alienated from the system. So average voting turnout was 62% last time, according to the census. And for Hispanics, only 48%. If we could just go across to Raymond Vickery, who's actually been looking after Hillary's campaign. Thank you very much for joining us. I just want... There's so many, it's such a, this election has kind of revealed to all of us all over the world a very divided society in America. Not just African Americans and Hispanics and whites, but also within whites, the more educated voting for Hillary, the less educated vote. There are a lot of divisions. Is that a worrying scenario for anybody taking over as president?
I think it's terribly worrying, Dr. Roy. What has happened with Donald Trump is that he has unloosed some of the demons in American politics. In American politics, we've always had an underlying current of race, of class, of education. What is going on here is that Trump has, for the first time in a long time, seized on this as a way forward for his own personal candidacy. And this is unfortunate and is going to provide a tremendous challenge to whoever is elected. Because this is a great country, but it's only great if we can all pull together and overcome these divisions which are endemic in politics. So I see it as a challenge. I think it's extremely unfortunate, and I think it's really a disqualification in and of itself of Donald Trump to be elected president of the United States.
Well, let's bring in a Republican commentator, Pax Hart, in New York. Thank you very much, Pax Hart, for joining us. We're just talking about the amazing divisions that have been revealed in American society. It looks like a divided nation, and to be honest, hasn't Trump actually exacerbated those divisions? Many people say, look, he's not being politically correct. He's just telling the truth. But when the truth he tells highlights divisiveness, doesn't it?
Well, you know, the Trump campaign is, what Trump is doing is fighting against globalism. He is fighting against this progressive ideology, this borderless society where in America we have people in America that need the attention of the U.S. president. We have an unbelievable black underclass that is trapped in Democrat-controlled ghettos. These people need our assistance. When you look at Jim Crow, when you look at Japanese internment.
So, but if I can I just ask you a question on that for a second?
Wait. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
When you look at the fight against civil rights, the opposition against civil rights, this was all the Democrats. Democrats use racism, they use division, they segregate our society into race. This is what the Democrats do. They've been trying to blame this on Republicans for almost 60 years.
I just wanted to ask you, okay.
Are the party of segregation.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you, you talk about the Republicans, you need a president that looks after the interests of the African Americans, and you're trying to tell them that. You don't seem to have succeeded because you know how much percentage of African Americans are voting for Trump? 6%. 87% are voting for Clinton. You haven't got your message across, have you?
We need a president who is going to serve all of Americans. We don't need a president who is going to put the needs of Mexican citizens, Mexican nationals who have broken into our country illegally, which Hillary Clinton wants to naturalize for the votes. That's the only reason that Democrats are pushing so strongly for amnesty. That's the only reason they've constantly pushed for amnesty, is so that they can get generational block voting. They thought they had the African American community locked down, then they moved on to the Hispanic community. This is how the Democrats operate. They segregate our society into ethnic blocks, and they try to fearmonger them in by saying that Republicans are the enemy, Republicans are going to bring back segregation. That's all from the Democrats. That is not from Republicans. And unfortunately,
But how come, can I just ask you again, Mr. Hart, how come the educated college degree holders are not voting for Trump? Whites, even the whites are not voting.
Well, no, actually, I am. And
You always
many
need an
people in
outlier
Miami
in
are.
life, right?
I'm sorry?
I said there's always an outlier, but the data shows that the white college degree, white educated American is voting for Clinton and not Trump. And the less educated, the non-college degree holder is voting for Trump. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you know, I mean, this is also part of our education system here, which, you know, we're hoping to change at some point. You know, it's very common knowledge that our education system, our higher education system in the U.S. is predominantly run by left and far left professors. You know, this is many times when people come through our education system, a lot of those people flip and become Republicans once they get out into the real world. You know?
Oh, well,
Many of
the
kids
data doesn't show that, but I'll bring in
our
Raymond
education
Vickery
system.
again to counter some of the things or argue against you. Let's see. Raymond Vickery, you've been accused as a Democrat of dividing the society, pandering to African American voters, pandering to Hispanic voters, and just to get votes. It's sort of a vote bank politics. Is that what Democrat success is all about?
Well, I think Mr. Hart exemplifies sort of the alternative reality that Trump supporters are living. We're not anti-Republican. Our slogan is together. We realize the States of America was built by immigrants. Except for Native Americans, we're all immigrants. We're not the ones who said Mexicans are rapists. We're not the ones that say don't call and keep people out. We're not the ones that Mr. Trump saying it's law and order, which in many places is just a code word for keeping blacks down. Reality is that there is a strong racist content to what is being pushed by Donald Trump.
But Raymond Vickery, are you a little worried? Are you a little worried, sorry sir, are you a little worried about turnout among African Americans this time? Because under Obama, of course, there was a very high turnout. There's some indications may not be that high, and you've got a lot of your support depends on the African American vote.
Well, I don't think that you can expect turnout to be as high as it was for Barack Obama. I mean, this is just a natural phenomenon. But the reality is, as you just pointed out, there's only 6% of African Americans who say they'll vote for Trump. And what's the reason for that? The reason is because they recognize that their interests are voted by the Democratic candidate, Hillary Clinton, and they're going to turn out in very substantial numbers.
Okay, thank you very much, Raymond Vickery. We lost a bit of that in the audio, but got most of it. And I just wonder whether Trump supporter, Mr. Hart, would like to react to that, because you keep saying that, you know, what have they got to lose, the African American, but they don't believe you. Only 6 or 7% are going to vote for you.
Well, actually, you know, in response to the gentleman's comment, you know, I think we saw over this past weekend where Barack Obama, you know, the representative of the Democrat Party, is going to Hillary Clinton campaign events saying that if Republicans get back into the White House, they're going to support the KKK. I mean, this is the most incendiary, disgusting comments that any politician in 2016 can make to stir up the, you know, division in this country. You know, when Trump was talking about a very high crime epidemic coming from illegal immigrants, and this is very key. You know, what Democrats like to do is they like to conflate legal and illegal immigration and say, well, Trump's called all Mexicans rapists. That was not true. What Trump said is that of the illegal immigrant population, we're seeing a whole lot of crime. We're seeing violent crime. We're seeing sexual assault. These are crime statistics. This is not painting a race or a culture or an ethnicity as rapist. We are talking about illegal immigrants who are, being drawn in by, by policies of the Democratic Party to give people incentive to come here by giving them driver's licenses, by giving them welfare benefits, by setting up sanctuary
But isn't
cities.
it also true that
what Trump? Hold on.
No, one second.
What
Donald Trump has
is
himself
what
hired a lot
Trump
of them. Has hired himself a lot of
let me
illegal
finish.
immigrants. So how can he talk against it now?
That's absolutely false. That is absolutely false.
Okay, we'll do a fact check.
What Trump is saying, what Trump is saying is that instead of us throwing the doors open, providing resources for illegal immigrants in this country, we to come into this country, we have a depressed black underclass who is suffering in education, generational poverty. Those are the people that need our assistance, not Mexicans because they happen to be within walking distance.
Okay.
This is what Trump is saying, and what progressives like to do is they cherry pick these comments, they bundle it together and say if you oppose unrestricted immigration, it's because you're a racist. We're seeing this all over Europe. We're seeing this in England. We saw this during Brexit, and now we're seeing it in the United States.
Okay, we're just going to get a reaction from what you're saying from
play.
Amy, in the sense that he says that the liberals and the politically correct people misinterpret Trump. That actually he's being very specific. Only the real minority are rapists and murderers, but the rest. What's your reaction? I get it.
I'm flabbergasted. I'm not quite sure what to say. I mean, I think when you use language like that, I mean, things are very complicated. It's not like the Hispanic or Latino community in America are two completely separate communities. You have illegal immigrant parents who are you have illegal immigrants who may have come illegally, who've been working for 25 years, paying into Social Security, and now have legal American citizen children and even grandchildren. So, I mean, it's not like these are completely distinct communities. So when you start throwing words around like this, people will take offense.
You have to look at why is he still standing tall? If he was such a bad candidate, why is he not down and out?
Right.
I think what you said, the divided nation, look, there has been a growing economic inequality. Right. There is a sense that, look, you're not going to make progress, your children are not going to do as well as you've done. Jobs, manufacturing jobs have disappeared. So there is a source for resentment which he has mobilized. Now, he's not the only one who did it, actually. If you look at Bernie Sanders, on the Democratic side, imagine a guy calling himself socialist in America. 20 years ago, to call yourself a liberal was not possible. So I think he almost came to win the nomination. So I think there is a base on which this thing is playing out, and is not just a character we can dismiss in that sense.
Right.